All right, welcome to Bonehead Weekly.
Excuse me.
Oh my God.
I love doing that to you.
I don't feel bad for me. I just feel bad for all of our listener. Moving right along. Ooh. So Chad had this idea. And the topic.
Got to correct you. In fairness, Glenn had this idea.
Who's Glenn? Anyway, so had this idea and Chad, because we were trying to get our episode together. We're supposed to have some interviews, but we're kind of authors, man, weirdos. Like, I'd love to do this show. Can I do it 4 months from now when the signs in my Virgo and everything lines up? James, you have to back me up slightly on this.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Authors, man, writers. Anyway, weird bunch. So back to what I was saying.
Sorry, Chad, Laura Hightower.
Well, Laura Hightower is what we call an ace in a hole. Laura Hightower gets it. She's a professional. She can perform on a dime. And for a dime, hopefully she's listening to this and just getting pissed now. But some of your writer friends are a bit kooky, or can be. Now, Chad, what's the idea for this week's episode?
So
what's the topic?
I do want to give credit. So Glenn from Good Movie Monday, who we contribute to, asked us to do our favorite high school.
We appear on there. I don't know if we contribute.
Yes, that's true. He's got a point. Asked us to do like our favorite high school movie. And that's when I said, oh, wait, I have too long of a list of high school movies that I could choose from. So I'm like, we need to do our own episode on high school movies. So it was in our quiver. And when we were coming up with topics, I said, well, why don't we
believe you worked in quiver?
I'm all a quiver.
One of my top 5 superheroes is Green Arrow. So yeah, it was right there. So I was like, why don't we talk about high school movies ourselves? Because there are some good ones, but I'm going to let Joe lead this way, because me and Joe had a conversation prior to starting this that I agree with him on wholeheartedly.
So here's the problem. This is one of those where it's so fortuitous. It just seems like it was meant to happen. We were going back and forth on text message. Chad puts this, and then maybe 8 hours later, I'm at home again. This is like my 3rd week out of January that my kid's been exposed to something. I have to stay home and quarantined again. Son of a bitch. And I'm looking on Facebook, and by God, a memory comes up. And I want to tell this memory, if you don't mind, to share that my 3 friends, what?
James, do you mind? I say I mind. Do you mind? Is it going to stop him either way? If
no, I'm probably going to do it either way. Is that there was a Facebook group for my high school graduating class that had been around that I got added to. And I was like, oh, I got added to this. And this is several years ago. And then as I was looking at it, I was like, son of a bitch, this damn thing's been around for 10 years. They're just now adding me. And I've told the story before. Well, the memory comes up, and I never try to miss a chance to share it and go, I hated high school. Boys, what do we all 3 agree on?
Man, high school is one of the worst ways to spend 4 or, well, I'm sorry. It's
one of the worst ways for
4
you
to 5. 4 to 5 years of your life, depending on who you are.
I knew a guy, I knew a guy who was 7.
Did you really?
Oh yeah.
I make that joke, but did you really?
Yeah. They eventually gave up and just graduated him.
Go ahead, James.
So I this may shock. People are like, is this something wrong with the audio?
He got his doctorate of a high school.
It sounds like he got his Mel Tillis doctorate. Is that too obscure, gentlemen?
A little bit.
Not for me.
Just a little.
Sing it. Anyway,
sing it, Mel.
But I think the problem is, honestly, high school is not a place to be an individual.
No,
I think that's the problem with high school in general.
At least it wasn't when we went through.
Yeah, but you can't be an individual in high school, because you've got to have your clique. And one of the things that I tell my kids all the time, because they're in school and they'll be like, oh, so and so, and I got it, and I'm like, I mean, it's possible that you'll be friends with somebody that you went to school with. I know other people that have friends from high school, and I have a couple people from high school that I talk to on every blue moon. That's fine. and they're the people that I kind of
Miranda
trust.
is a good friend of ours and a friend of the show. I talked to her this week about Lexington Comic-Con.
Yeah.
But I didn't go to high school with her. I went to college with her. You went to high school.
Yeah. So, but I mean, there's those cases, but in general, if you don't fit a certain mold, high school is not for you.
No.
And honestly, I look back on it and I had great teachers, especially the English department. They were really good to me.
Chad is shaking his head for the folks listening. I'm 50-50. I did not have great teachers, but I also was not a great student.
I had
two. I'd say two great teachers in high school.
I had three, maybe two or three.
This may shock you, gentlemen, and if nobody take a drink, I don't want anybody to do a spit take.
Well, I've got
but I was a nerd. And so that I was academic. I loved academic stuff. Once again, you'll be shocked. I was a member of the future problem solving team, which is an offshoot of the academic team, where we tried to solve problems that would be issues in the future.
I was a member of the science fiction club.
We didn't have that because that was for nerds. So there weren't enough people. I would have signed up for it if it existed.
Well, they all had long hair and biker jackets in the science fiction club. It was an odd, I'm telling you, if you go back and look, it was an odd thing. I think it was just because we were all pissed off and wanted to watch movies.
Man, our high school didn't have any of this stuff. And of course, I was so introverted that if we did, I didn't know about it. So.
No, I mean, I did the academic stuff, but I can remember, and I was known as a good kid. By the teachers. The teachers liked me because I was like, it was literally one of the things that I got to be
life story on this.
No, I got to be a teacher's assistant because they were like, oh, he can grade papers.
Oh shit, James.
Yeah, man.
That's
I was
dumb as hell.
I was
good Lord.
Why didn't you just be a fucking hall monitor?
Oh no, let me be doing better. No, I also was the editor of the high school newspaper, so I got a class pass for that. Oh man, I rocked.
He was the boy.
You rocked with your asshole.
Did you go into
pairs of Hanes up it?
Did you go into the smoking? You blew an air horn?
No. I tried not to use.
Come on, out here smoking.
Hey, no.
I tried not to use the bathroom in my high school because I was in the bathroom once, and there was another guy that I knew that was in the bathroom. I was in a stall. He was at a urinal, and they turned out the lights, and they came in. And luckily, I was in the stall. They didn't know I was there. They beat the living daylights out of the kid. And his only defense that literally when he came in, he urinated on them. So later on, they caught the guy that beat him because he had urine all over his pants from where he just turned around and went, screw you. If you're going to hit me, I'm going to pee on you. So that's true story.
I never went in one either because the one time I decided I really had to go, I went into a stall and it was seriously so full of cigarette butts that the butts had absorbed the water.
Oh yeah.
And then I also heard at one point somebody got stabbed in the bathroom. So I'm like, okay, I'm never going to take a dump in a bath.
No. I mean, and that's why the stall, if I had to, I always went in a stall. I never used to urinal. That was a passageway to get a beat down. No, this is a true story though. It's the thing that I used to remember because where I went to school, there was a university, and if you were a kid of a university faculty member or a staff member, you had a clique. And if you weren't ever going to graduate high school, you had a clique. So I used to walk down the hallway, and you would see these, quite frankly, bullies lined up against the wall. They tended to be, the phrase most applied to them were rednecks, and they would count down, and you could hear them do it. It'd be like 3, 2, 1, and then one of them would shove the other one into you, just to, see if they could knock you down. So they basically use themselves as bowling balls to shove different ones of them into you as you walk down the hallway. So I hated high school, which leads me, I wanted to do the exact Stephen King quote that begins with that exact quote.
Yeah.
I hated high school. I don't trust anybody who looks back on the years from 14 to 18 with any enjoyment. If you like being a teenager, there's something wrong with you.
I actually misquoted it then because I've heard it's not that I don't like people who went to high school.
He said
I fundamentally don't trust them.
Trust them. That is there. He has said it that way as well. This was
that
the
one's the one
quote.
that actually is more sensitive than the first one, and it may be with age. And I wasn't bullied, so I mean, people may have said something, but I don't remember being bullied. I just was an angry young man who never fit in where I grew up. I've said this to someone the other day, and they also looked at me like I was an asshole. And I get this shit a lot about Eastern Kentucky because that's where I'm from. It's from the hills, and a lot of people I know want to go back there eventually, and I don't particularly have that fondness for it. And I got, would you blah, blah, blah. I was like, no, I actually feel like I belong and fit in more I live in Lexington than I ever did where I grew up.
Right.
Well, And
I
I
do.
don't know.
I just do.
I
I
don't-
walk around the streets. I go to have my little things at the conventions, and I work at a good university. Well, I work at a university.
No, it's a great university. They pay your salary, Joe.
I
It's
know,
a great university. No,
I'm a little pissy about something this week. But keep going.
well, that being said, though, and this is, I didn't know if this was your case, and I don't want to delve into a dark area, but well, screw it. It's our show. I'm going to do it anyway. I think about 10% of my graduating class is dead, and I'm
It's
not
more
that
than
old.
10% for me.
Yeah, and that's
Has
what I
to
always
be
think
more.
about.
I
All
am
my friends growing up, all the people who are doing drugs and drinking for the most part are all dead. They're all dead. My
Yeah.
best friend growing up is dead. Yeah, he drugs and alcohol, not taking care of themselves.
Yeah, and I mean, and we are not spring. We are not, to quote my mother, spring
No,
chicken.
but a lot of these people were in. I mean, I'm 43. I'll be 44, and he would have been 44 in May. So we were 2 months apart, and he's been dead 5 years. So he died in his 30s.
Yeah, and
most of these other folks died in their 30s, 20s, and 30s.
And that's what I always. And again, not that I'm better than anybody, because God knows I'm not. But it is one of those things that's really interesting when you look back. And if I pull out my high school yearbooks, the people that got all the accolades, because I was a nerd, but I wasn't a prize-winning nerd. Honestly, I wasn't
always a bridesmaid. James, keep going.
It's true. But I look at some of the people that really went far, and I look at some of the people that everybody's like, they're not going to do anything. The middle ground people are the ones that seem to be excelling in my worldview. I don't know if that's, I don't know.
I don't know. I think we have a couple of doctors, and that would be, I think there's a doctor, some nurses, some really cool professionals. I'm not really tight with a lot of them. I'm not as disengaged as Chad is. And that's not throwing a rock. It's just, that's accurate, right, Chad?
Yeah, no, I
don't mind them adding me on Facebook.
I have a couple of friends. I've had a couple of people from high school add me, but other than that, nobody has actually, like, I was such a non-person in high school that nobody has looked me up. I've made this joke a few times. If you're a regular listener, I have never been and I don't know if our high school has them. I've never been invited to a high school reunion yet. So
here's your chance. Here's your chance, Waddy. Go after Chad.
I would say now, in all fairness, they want you to come. They just can't remember your name.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I had like one really good friend in high school, but that was it. I mean, and we never, it just kind of went away. So high school was not a memorable experience for me.
But do you think also, though, I mean, I think we also went to high school in a time period that's really hard for, if you're 10 years older than we are, you don't understand when we went to high school.
Well, we're the last of Generation X. I'm the last of Generation X.
If you're the last
of Generation X.
If you're 5 years after us, you don't understand when we went to high school.
No.
And I think about how things have changed since I graduated.
That's post-Columbine.
Exactly. This is a true story, and this is probably will tell you why my mouth got me in trouble sometimes. But I was picked on a lot in high school. And I can remember when we graduated, one of the things that they had, and my mother went all in on graduating high school because my mother didn't have the opportunity to graduate from high school. So she was like, "Oh, you're going to prom. I want you to do this." My mother lived a little bit vicariously through me. That being said,
did you go to prom?
Yeah.
Oh shit, I didn't know that. Did you know he went to prom, Chad?
Oh,
I swear to God, I would have lost $1,000 bet on that.
There's photos and everything.
Because I thought you were like Chad and I.
Can I tell a story though about, once again?
Well, you will talk. I don't know about the beginning, middle, and the end.
Joe, you know something. Hold on, let me make this voice. Joe, you know a little bit about film.
No, very goddamn little.
What film was big in 1998, Joe? Around 1998.
God, Armageddon.
No.
Yeah.
No, it might as well been though, because our theme and the infinite wisdom.
Con Air?
No, and the infinite wisdom of the fine people of Round County Senior High
Titanic.
School. Titanic was our theme.
Yeah.
And they had a boat thing. They had all of this stuff. And I literally went, wait a second. So if people crash tonight, it matches the theme of our prom.
Yeah, I dated a lady named Valerie, and I had to take her, I think, twice to Titanic.
It was, so anyway, that was our theme. But that being said, when I graduated, you could buy the graduation gift set or whatever. My mother got it for me. And one of the things that it came with was a Stein, but it had everybody that graduated, their names on it. And somebody said to me, well, oh no,
it is weird.
Somebody made the comment, it kind of shocks me that you would get this. And what was the next phrase out of my mouth? Well, it's going to be my hit list later. If I said that now,
no.
That's what I mean. And that's what I tell that story. And that was a dark joke then, but I was picked on a lot and I never would have hurt anybody. I never did to my knowledge, not intentionally.
The only people you've hurt is us.
Yeah, I was going to say, should we talk about it, Joe? No. Even we're supposed to be talking about movies, but we're sitting here.
I didn't know that he was going to use this as a fucking therapy session.
Dude, I can't.
Although I should have.
I can't afford therapy. No, I really.
I'm just still. Only thing about this is shocking is that you went to prom. I cannot get past.
Yeah, I thought. Yeah, out of all three of us, yeah.
I
didn't go to prom. Chad didn't go to prom.
No, I didn't go to prom.
I went out and got drunk that night. But
I think me and you didn't go to proms for two different, completely reasons.
I'm not going to tell you.
I didn't want to go to prom.
I'm going to tell you how good I looked.
Isn't that the same reason?
Oh, I'll tell you.
I didn't want to go to prom. I didn't want to go to prom just because there was nobody for me to connect with. Yeah. So
I didn't have a girlfriend at the time. I just didn't.
Neither did I. Yeah, I'm just like, I'm not. There was a lot of people who went stag, and I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm like, I can't do that because I would just end up in a corner. So
I just didn't want to go to prom.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
Yeah, you're right. It's slightly different reasons. Yeah, the idea of it sounded really uncool to me, Chad.
Yeah.
But now that we are middle aged,
and by the way, one of the good teachers, Fran, if you're listening to me, you're wrong. I know she's never listened to me. She maybe did. I hope not.
Are you holding a lighter?
I am.
Oh my God. Is this, you're talking about me doing a therapy session, but you're going to end this by saying, I'll show you high school and lighting yourself on fire.
I've paid too much for this bitch.
It's all hold on, y'all. I got to walk outside.
She told me that I would always regret that. Master's degree, assistant, blah 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 blah. Never once regretted it.
I've never regretted it at all.
Regret it. No.
But no,
flip side of that, if it makes you feel any better, Joe, I've never celebrated going. My mom has the photos of me at prom.
Who'd you take?
They had that's a complicated story. I'm not going to tell on air. I'll ask you later.
So
it's invisible.
I was going to say, so let's talk about this then, because let's
Joe, she's from Canada. You wouldn't know her.
Is it Tagnes? We have some Canadian listeners.
So let's talk.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say, so to get back onto the movie part of this conversation. So is this why, I don't know how you all feel, but I have a hard time watching high school movies just because of the sheer and total bullshit of the setting and how it's just not.
Oh yeah.
Well, the problem is that it's not accurate, and B, I don't know, because you all said high school movies. It's like, yeah, fucking A, that'll be a lot easier than the other thing that we're going to do that we still got to do. It was not for me.
No. Well, and
the problem is there I can find a bunch of them that I like. None of them I have the opening and kind of the middle for a high school film that I'd like to do because they've never really made one that's
Gory Days.
My experience. No, that's the Chad.
They've already just
going to move it from the 8 as we get older. When we sell that pitch, we're just moving it from the 80s to the 90s, bud.
Gotcha. The title's been used by a book now, which people should. Anyway, by the way, the last thing I did want to say though, before we get into films, is Kurt Vonnegut. We had a Stephen King quote. Kurt Vonnegut has a quote that also always makes me think of high school. True terror is to wake up one morning and discover that your high school class is running the country. And we're middle-aged. We're middle-aged now, folks. It's getting awful true.
It is awful true. Yeah, I often think that I'm younger than what I actually am. I do this at work because I was thinking the other day, I was like, damn, they're only 40. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess they are old enough to be doing that because they're younger than me.
But the thing about that is that, and I think maybe this is why I didn't enjoy high school, because I worked and I didn't enjoy college the way I enjoyed college.
Well, no, I loved college.
I liked college too, yeah.
But I always had to work. And I think that's the thing. So like a lot of high school and college movies, as we get ready to talk about that, very rarely have I seen the high school or college movie where it's, because technically I worked more than I was supposed to. I mean, I literally broke the legal limits of how I worked a full-time job when I was in high school, and you were supposed to limit.
It is one Oliver Twist story tonight after another.
Yeah.
Oh, look at me! I got a fancy ass mug, and
I think we're 20 minutes in, and we have not even talked about
high school movies yet. We haven't even got the High School Musical yet, James.
Well, now which one? And are you talking about the series? You want me to talk about this?
Oh no, we're not talking about High School Musical, the musical. No, we're not talking about that.
I've never seen it.
You don't want to.
I'm not going to.
Yeah, so I didn't have as much of a problem with Joe, but at the same time, when
did you say that? I want you to think about what you Freudian just said.
I know what I just said, but I didn't mean it that way. But when it came to the movies, I actually put together a list of 11 movies, but at the same time, none of them fit the category of a typical high school movie, just because
none of them represent the way. Okay, Clerks is kind of, sort of, but not so much, because I didn't work in retail. None of them represent the way they talked in Clerks represented me. But
was Clerks? Clerks was a high school movie. I didn't think
it's not really a high school movie.
They're adults.
Well, they're in their late teens, early 20s.
I thought they were already in their 20s.
It's kind of the only thing that represents the way we talk.
Like for example, I'm going to give a prime example of a classic high school movie, American Pie. I hate American Pie.
Well, I don't hate it, but I haven't seen it in 10, 15 years.
I've watched it once, and I will never go back to watching it.
I saw it in the theater when it came out. I don't know that the movie could be made now, because
I didn't enjoy it. I just was like, because none of it was, I thought,
Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah, it was reflective of the real high school.
No, it's not reflective, but I enjoyed it.
I know what it is. I know what it is. It's fantasy. I could get into a fantasy film, but there's just too much of a high school. It's just so left field as to what high school actually is that I could not get into it. That and Clueless. I have never seen Clueless.
Oh,
never
Clueless
seen it.
Isn't bad. It's Shakespearean. It's by no way represents what
right. And I've seen parts of, I've never seen it all the way through.
Like 10 Things I Hate About You. It's
I'd say 10 Things I Hate About You.
It's a good movie.
It's a great movie. Yeah. A great soundtrack too.
Oh yeah. 10 Things I Hate About You is a great film. It takes place in high school, but
it's not representative of my high school experience.
Yeah.
No.
What's another one? Oh no.
What
about Porky's? So American Pie, Porky's is a high school film.
Porky's is a high school film, but at the same time, I don't really see them as high school kids. I just see them as guys and girls on an adventure. So it
is a high school setting, but
it's the same thing. I
like Porky's, but it does not represent my experience.
It's the same thing with Dazed and Confused. And I know we need to get actually into a discussion of high school food, but I don't view Dazed and Confused is a high school film. But at the same time, I actually really enjoy it just because it's not really so much as the height. Now, granted, I never had that experience. I know people who lived that life in high school, but I never had that. I did. Oh yeah. Those were
but the paddling and all that shit, none of that stuff happened.
No, not the paddling, but I'm talking about going out into the woods and having a party, everybody driving around town, meeting up with the others.
I went to high school with did have that experience.
Yeah, and I did too.
They would go on these things called strip jobs where they would remove it's a mountaintop removal, and they post about it. I still see it. And I was like, hey, when we going to Lico? They still say it. I never was invited.
Yeah, I was never invited either. I actually oddly enough, I got invited after I left high school and when I was in college.
I didn't get invited.
Yeah,
but I did get invited to my 20-year reunion, so I do have that. I do have that. And then I remember that she was very nice, going, "I don't think so," and she goes, "Oh, you'll be there." And I just ended it because everything I was about to say was going to be mean.
Yeah,
and I didn't need to be mean to her.
Yeah, never been invited. Maybe the 30. No, it's not going to happen. There ain't gonna be
only way I would go. The problem is that you have that in your mind if you ever go back and you're like, I'm going to be rich, famous, and blah 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 blah. Well, no matter how rich, no matter how famous you are, I'll still just be Tubby Joe.
Well, no, and that's it.
That makes sense because I'll see them on social media, and they still are cliquish. You can see who comments on what, and nothing's changed. No matter how rich, no matter how famous, nobody cares. You're still no one.
So and it's and all the stuff that I've really enjoyed.
Or as Mick Strawn said it best, most people in Hollywood are trying to prove something to somebody they knew in high school.
Right.
Right? It's one of the smartest things that's ever been said on the show.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%. So
let's start talking about it.
Yeah. So high school movies. So Joe, since what is the first one that came to your mind when you think about high school movies?
See, the issue is, Chad, is the first one that came to my mind is, and James said this very eloquently really earlier, but I started thinking about the Hughes films, which are some of the ones that I do love, but we did a whole episode on that. And I started thinking about the one, you get to Ferris Bueller and I'm so sorry. Breakfast Club just absolutely left my mind. Breakfast Club is one of my favorite movies of all time. Doesn't really represent me either. But one of the best movies made about high school when you started, and it is number one on Rotten Tomatoes list, and because I always go back and look at lists, is The Last Picture Show. But as much as I love this movie, as much as we just talked about it about Peter Bogdanovich dying, it represents the experience I had. What about you all?
No.
Were you any of you all sleeping with Sybil Shepherd?
I will safely say there isn't a high school.
Hold on. Are we
high school high?
Hold on one second. Are we past the statute of limitations? Okay, no, I wasn't sleeping with Sybil Shepherd.
I'm going through this whole damn list.
There is not a high school movie ever that was made that reflects my high school experience, guys.
Dazed and Confused is kind of close, but no, it's not even.
The first movie I was going to talk about is the only one that I think, for me, if you held a gun to my head and said, hey, what movie on film comes the closest to your high school experience, there's only one movie that actually comes to mind.
What's that?
It is a movie that shows, if you remove all the other elements from it, it shows the brutality of peer groups. It shows the angst people have of going into high school. It shows the challenge of balancing your home life with your school life, and that's Carrie.
Yeah. Well,
Carrie
is number... Oh, it's in the top 10. It's number 12 on Rotten Tomatoes.
All I can say is I can't wait for James to talk, because I'm going to talk about a movie that is not on anybody's list.
Well, no, Carrie. So Carrie
High School High has to be on somebody's list.
I love High School High, but for
James, I left it for James.
But no, I mean, remove the supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
But the sheer amount of we're going to,
I agree with you.
Parents just being of not understanding, and I think Harlan Ellison, I knew I'd work him in today, but Harlan Ellison has a quote, and if you watch Dream with Sharp Teeth, he has this quote, and it always actually reminds me. People are like, well, why didn't you tell your parents? Why didn't you? Because Harlan Ellison's quote always makes me remember why I didn't tell anybody what happened at school. Because Harlan Ellison's quote is, he went home, and this happened to him when he was in elementary school, and he was beat up, and he's bleeding, and he's got blood on his clothes, and his mom has to scrub his clothes, and he feels bad about all of that. But when she says what happened, they said, he says they beat me up, and they beat him up because he was a Jewish kid in Ohio right after World War II.
Yep.
But when he says they just beat me up because I'm, of who I am, his mother looked at him and said, no, you had to have done something. And this idea that it's reciprocal, or that it was, and that was never my case. I was the only kid in my family, kid in my family line. My dad played football in high school. My brother ran cross country and all that stuff. I didn't play sports. I didn't have that connection. So the sheer terror, I guess, of high school, I didn't belong anywhere. I didn't have, and so again, remove the supernatural, but this, it's ludicrous that they would target somebody like that. No, it's not. Why would they do it? Because they can't. And that's what the answer always was. I mean, I had a knife pulled on me once, and I was like, what do you want from me? He goes, nothing. I can do this. And that's, so Carrie is the closest. Again, nobody pours pig blood on me. You don't waste that good pig's blood.
Oh, let's pause real quick. So, James, you had a bad childhood, and now you want to murder people that were on the list of the cup.
No, and I would never ever hurt anybody. But I think that's the other side of it.
It's going to go back.
Hold on. I think that's the other side of it, Joe. Is the difference between me and Carrie?
Yeah, one of you had a lot of supernatural abilities, and the other one was Carrie.
But if I found out that I had those powers, you know what I would have done?
That man has a tongue. What?
I would have left town.
If I'd had those, Carrie's abused at home.
Well, yeah. And I mean, generally wasn't.
Right. I knew your dad. I know your mom. Yeah. I don't think they beat you too much.
No, I had great parents. I had a brother that was a little bit problematic, but I had great parents. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Chad, what's your number 10 of your 11 different ones?
So I want to talk about the movie.
Time out real quick, Chad. Please don't talk about the ones that you filmed yourself. That the students wonder where you're filming. We're not supposed to talk about those, Chad.
So I want to talk about a movie.
It looks like James is masturbating. If you're listening,
I want to talk about a movie that I was.
Hold on, Joe. If this is how you do it, you need to see a doctor.
Yeah. It's also the reason why it took me 39 years to have a kid. Keep going, Chad.
So I want to talk about a movie that I liked as a kid, that when I saw it, I'm like, oh God, I hope high school is like this. To when I finally became high school, I'm like, oh, it's not even anything like this. And more importantly, to the point, my high school didn't even offer a driver's ed class. I am talking about the 1988 made for TV movie Crash Course.
Are you fucking serious? That's on your list of favorite high school film.
It is.
Now,
you could have done Hoop Dreams, Say Anything, and you said 1988 Crash Course.
Oh yes, and this is the one. If you listen to our small segment on Good Movie Monday, I had a movie that I really wanted to talk about, but my brain left me, and I talked about another one. This is the movie that I forgot.
Crash Course.
By the way, if you're wondering how Chad's school didn't have a driver's ed, this is Chad's dark secret, Amish school. But if you need a barn raise, call Chad.
Oddly enough, they did away with the driver's ed as I was getting to high school.
They have now got rid of it. Actually,
got rid of it.
I
love learning.
The doctorate said that sentence.
Book learning.
Oh, hey, listen, I got a PhD.
So,
I talk good.
Have either of you actually seen Crash Course?
No.
Okay. So
who's in it, Chad?
Oh my God. Hold on to your seats.
Okay.
Okay. Here we go. The late great Charles Robinson from Night Court.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
That's
Jack A. Harry.
Okay.
Harvey Korman.
Okay. Hit me at Harvey Korman.
Ray Walston.
Yeah, I like Ray Walston. He's also in another great high school film.
And they were great as teenagers in this movie in the 1980s.
Oh my God, Ray Walston.
You mean Popcorn's Ray Walston?
Now, and by the way, I didn't leave out the guy who won Best Oscar, or who won the
Oscar ever.
who won the Oscar for Best Actor ever. Dick Butkus was also in this movie.
Now, he also won the Oscar for Best Oscar ever.
Dick Butkus, for those that don't know, you probably know him best as playing Van Tassel in the Jeff Goldblum Sleepy Hollow.
Actually, I remember him as best as My Two Dads as the cook at the diner.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But
by the way, My Two Dads stars Greg Evigan and some guy that never did anything else called Paul Reiser.
Yeah, if only he'd had a show where he drove a truck and had a monkey.
But the teenagers in this movie were Brian Bloom, Rob Stone, and then we're going to get into the big ones: Tina Yothers, Alyssa Milano, Olivia Diabo, and then B.D. Wong in a very early role as a Asian rapper.
Listen. If he's taught me anything, is that you can't trust that sumbitch around anything that has to do with dinosaurs.
And you should seriously, guys, you can actually see a almost perfect copy of this movie on YouTube. Just get on it, just for the fact that you watch BD Wong in a very early role. All of a sudden, he's like walking around with a big boombox rapping, and all the people in the high school are dancing with him, because that always happened in high school in the 1980s. But no, it's all about, and again, it's such a weird concept.
Chad, you're sending me to drink.
It's about these kids who failed driver's ed during the school year, so they're having to take it again over the summer.
That's a great plot.
Oh God, it is so terrible.
So you're saying they had to go to summer school,
and the movie's called Ski School.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about that another movie tied into that same concept in just a few minutes, obviously. But no, it is such a schlocky film because it's a TV movie from the 80s. You know, there was tons of these movies in the 80s that were made for TV, low budget, very poorly written. And this is none the exception. For example, their biggest comedy skit is Tina Yothers somehow suddenly drives it, puts it in reverse, and proceeds to go down a road backwards, and nobody can figure out how she did it.
Put it in reverse.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's what
that little R means.
This was my high school movie. Granted, Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller, those were, the higher echelon. But when you got to the second level of going, man, I really like this movie. It was Crash Course for me.
I never could view those as high school movies, though. I know they are, but I never viewed them that way.
See, I did.
They were too far out.
Yeah, I never got out of that mindset of those are high school films. But yeah, I mean, but Crash Course was definitely up there.
All right. Is it me?
Yeah, it's you.
I'm going back and forth, but I'm going to pick the good one. And this by no means.
No, there wasn't a Crash Course 2.
Okay. No, by no means represents my high school experience because I was not overly popular and I did not go to a prep school, and Bill Murray did not try to hire me as a job, and I did not try to steal a woman from him. But Rushmore is one of my favorite Wes Anderson films. Now, Wes Anderson would later make my favorite divorce, or one of my top 3 divorce films, but I like Rushmore. What about you guys? It also introduced me to Jason Schwartzman.
All I can say is there's not a Wes Anderson film that I hate.
No, but
there's a couple that are boring.
I loved even the trailer, because I can remember when that movie came out, when Rushmore came out, and they were doing the circuit, and I was watching David Letterman, and then I watched something else, and one of them, I think Letterman had Bill Murray on, and Schwartzman was on Conan O'Brien or something, and they both told similar stories, but you got both sides of it. And the story that I love behind the scenes is Schwartzman's talking about working with Bill Murray, and Rushmore was that his first film or his first major film, or
it was Bottle Rocket, then Rushmore, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was the second one. And it's Jason Schwartzman's first big film. I mean, he was young. I think he was only 17.
Yeah, and so that's what he talks about. He was talking about with Conan O'Brien, because Conan O'Brien, making conversation on the show, as you do on a talk show, said, what was it like? I mean, you're young and you're acting across from Bill Murray, and he goes, "This is an absolutely true story." He said, "I was intimidated, and they said, go out to dinner with him, get to know him away from set. He's a nice guy. You'll be fine." He said, "We literally were out. We were having a good time, and then the check came." And he said, Bill Murray literally looked at the waiter and went and pointed at me. And I had to pay the check. and I've remembered that story. What is that, 20 years ago? I remember that story since then.
It's 24 years ago.
Because I love that story, because the other side of that is, what are you going to do? Be like, no, I ain't paying it. No, you're going to pay Bill Murray's check and you're going to enjoy it.
I didn't realize the movie was that old. It is one of my favorite films. I love the character Jason Schwartzman plays. But honestly, even when I was younger, and I know this is going to sound maybe weird to both of you all, but I connected more to Bill Murray's character, even though he's a middle-aged man going through divorce, than I ever did the Jason Schwartzman's.
Oh, same here.
I connected to that. I connected to the downness of it, to this isn't working, to the yada.
Yeah, I was the same way.
So, James, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on mine.
One of my favorite high school movies has very little to do with high school. And I've talked about it before on the show, but I'm going to mention it briefly. I think it's one of my favorite high school movies because it reminds you, no matter what time period you're in, high school is going to suck for you. And that's Back to the Future.
I mean, it's on a lot of lists, and it does take place in high school.
See, now
I don't think of it as a high school film.
Yeah, I'm like
film.
I'm like that.
I started with Carrie, so I really don't have many places to run. And obviously, Back to the Future is not my high school experience either. I didn't play guitar.
You didn't go back, and your mom didn't try to nail you?
No, I mean, no, she wasn't interested at all. She told me to move along.
She was like,
I was going to say, James for a moment seemed wistful. Did anybody else catch that?
No. But I
was wistful. I nailed his mom.
I'm going to do a twofer here because the other high school movie, and neither one of them really work as high school movies, but they're movies that I love that involve the other one's Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
And Bill and Ted, I watch it, and the parts of me that seem authentic to high school are the parts where, like the football player, when he's giving his speech that it's not really going well, what does he end it with? Send him with football rules. All that stuff seems really realistic. Just those little windows of that's what that guy does. He's not going to give a great speech, but he's going to bring up football every chance he gets. You know, and so those
sometimes that's all
elements,
we have, James. Sometimes that's all we have.
I know. And
allow me to make a fat joke.
Oh no.
And that was one of those things that actually pulled me out of that movie. Was I went to high school and I'm like, oh, they never pulled us into an auditorium and made us do a presentation in front of our entire class.
I think that's the flip side of it, though, is that there are high schools where that exists, and I didn't understand that either.
Yeah.
But now when my kids go to school, like we're giving we're doing a talent show where all the people participate. And I'm like, that was not my high school.
That sounds a little weird.
Yeah, but I mean, you got a kid getting ready to start it, dude. It's coming for you. Because now there are those big auditoriums. I mean, they're building a new high school, and I was like, oh my God, it's got all that. So, but yeah, as far as high school movies, I mean, I think the parts of it that are realistic on those two movies, Back to the Future, Marty McFly doesn't fit in anywhere either.
But Marty was cool.
He was cool.
Marty
he was
broke.
Cool.
I mean, Ghostbusters and Back to the Future are those 80s films about materialism.
Yeah.
And Marty was cool before, even when he was broke. Marty was cool when he came back. It's impossible for me to relate to Marty McFly.
No.
I enjoy the movie, but it's impossible.
I'm much more George McFly. I am. I own my right. I'm the Crispin Glover. That being said, the other with Bill and Ted, I didn't identify with them, but they were those students that just coasted by, and they were likable. Like I think about people. There's one individual, and I've told this story before. Joe knows the story, and occasionally I quote it back and forth. But I went to high school with a guy that ended up dropping out. May have been one of the smartest human beings I know, but he was just into coasting by. And when I got accepted into college, his one piece of advice that he gave me was, "Oh, you're going to college?" And I said, "Yeah." And everybody was like, "Oh, study hard, do all that stuff." This dude looked at me, and by the way, this dude just added me on Facebook about 4 days ago. I honestly didn't know where he was, and he added me on Facebook random. But he looked at me, and he actually did this. We were at work, by the way, and he said, "Listen, when you go to college, keep in mind they'll tell you they won't, but if you chalk that line, ain't a woman alive that won't snort it." And I literally was like,
He's never said that to you, Chad?
No.
I don't know how you've never experienced this side of James. These are shit I've heard most of my life that I think other people walk with. James Thomas would never say that. He is on the street giving Gideon Bibles.
And I didn't say it. And I was raised in a very, I didn't get drug references.
He told me the second day at Morehead State University that I was going to snort that chalk line. Or I was going to be a bitch.
Full disclosure about how naive I was. I didn't know what he meant. So I was like, okay, then. And I went back to work.
He's out there with the pixie or whatever it says stuff.
Yeah. You kids like the sugar? That's not the sugar we meant. We meant booger sugar. I don't know what that is.
As he ripped open the Fun Dip and threw the stick out and just stuck his nose in the wrapper.
That would have been closer to where I was. Yeah. I mean, I was not. But seeing characters like that in films that just want, Bill and Ted don't want to be successful. Bill just doesn't want to go to military school. He just wants to scrape by. That part seemed awfully true to what a lot of high school students want to do. And so I want to mention those.
All right. So, God, which crappy 80s high school film do I talk about
first?
Are they
all in the 80s? At least I pulled out an Oscar-nominated one.
No, all of mine are cheesy 80s films. Can't Buy Me Love.
Okay, Patrick Dempsey.
I
did like it as a kid. I bet it's bad now.
Oh, God, yeah. I couldn't imagine watching it now. But, yeah, no, I loved that movie as a kid.
But once again, nobody's high school experience.
Nobody's high school experience. Nobody got up in the middle of the cafeteria and went over to the bully with a baseball bat and then actually walked away and never got suspended.
Or another one. Can I bring up another one if we're just kind of, you have 14 of them. 3 O'clock High.
Never seen it.
That's another one. It's Casey Zamasco, or I can never say his name correctly. I think it's sees a mask, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know him if you've seen him. He's in Young Guns. He was in 3 O'Clock High. He's actually in Back to the Future 1 and 2. He's the one with the 3D glasses. But
and he's the one that turns an airplane into a cartoon in Amazing Stories.
yeah, that's absolutely correct. The one directed by Spielberg with Costner. You're absolutely right. Anyway, moving right along. It's about him who a badass bully comes to school and you're not supposed to touch him, and he's supposed to go get an interview, and he accidentally touches him on the arm, and the whole day he says at 3 o'clock, I'm going to kill you. And it's about a fight that eventually happens at the end of the day, and they've got brass knuckles, and the teachers are getting knocked out, and there's some baseball bat, and it sounds more violent than it actually is. Nobody has this experience.
No,
I don't think.
Yeah, no, pretty much. Yeah, again, I don't want to get into too much trauma, but pretty much you did something, you got beat up right there on the spot. You didn't actually get a
at 3 o'clock, and then he actually ends up beating up this guy.
3 o'clock. Well, hell no, I'm not missing the bus home.
Well, I was gonna say, and that was the entire thing. A warning would have been great. Like, even I'm gonna hit you now would have been great. No, I got it from behind. Bam.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it got started again.
Go ahead,
James.
No, I just can't. No, I really did like Can't Buy Me Love all the time. I watched it a lot when I was.
Can't Buy Me Love all the time.
Yeah,
it was some of the time.
But now the premise is just even when I got to high school, I'm like, this premise is so stupid. So she
buy me a little love.
Yeah, he gives up he doesn't telescope, buys a dress. Right. Yeah. So yeah, that was the one.
It's pretty much a No Henry story.
Is he McDreamy or McSteamy? I don't know.
McDreamy, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know anything about.
I've never watched an episode of Grey's Anatomy.
Neither have I.
I have. Dana watched it, when we first got married. So I've been. You want me to walk you through?
So your marriage survived it, huh?
Well, I mean, listen. Honestly, she sat through all of Star Trek. It's hard for me to pick and be like, hey, some.
Yeah, but one's Star Trek and the other one's Grey's Anatomy.
And about on the air, same amount of time right now.
Go, Chad.
No, I was just going to venture off, and since talk about Can't Buy Me Love, I'll switch real quick because I want to move. I want to change course on my next pick. We got to talk about Summer School.
Well, Summer School is a movie I love that, as we've talked about on here before, that if you watch it now, I still enjoy it. The performances are great. The movie makes no sense.
Yeah, and there are some really bad cuts.
Plot holes. There's characters that disappear throughout the movie. And no, we are not talking. I've got argued with before. You mean the guy that was in the bathroom? Fuck you. If that's going through your mind right now, fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm talking about that. There's an actual Caucasian dude who never comes back till the end of the movie.
And then let's talk about the point that for some reason, like they're in school, and then the next cut is Mark Harmon in a male strip club, just partying, and there's no explanation how he got there or why he got there. It's
directed by Carl Reiner, and it's a fun movie, and I enjoy it. Carl Reiner's in the first of it. It's not, it's like Monster Squad. It's another one of those that you loved as a kid and you watch later, and I can enjoy it, but it just jumps. There's so many plot holes.
Yeah. There's just nothing that makes sense.
By the way, and this kind of speaking of things that don't make sense, I guess the flip side of that is how many of these high school movies now, especially the older ones, the 80s ones especially, are just...
There was a ton of 80s high school movies. There was just a ton. We're barely grazing this surface.
Yeah.
But how many of them now, if we look back, and you mentioned Porky's, John Hughes films, a lot of them are problematic for this. I have scenes that now, if you wanted to film that, you'd have to be like, boy, we got to have a conversation.
Revenge of the Nerds. You couldn't even do it with American Pie because they have the webcam set up while Shannon Elizabeth gets undressed and everybody's watching. And at the time, it was hilarious. Now, I didn't think anything about it, but you couldn't do it now.
No,
that scene in the movie now.
Or you could. It'd be a horror film or a drama, something that would be on Lifetime.
Yeah, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be a comedy where everybody's enjoying the fact.
Yeah,
that
it would be
topless.
It would be what you. I've actually never seen You. I probably need to stop talking.
You've never seen
a serial killer movie show?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a serial killer show. I've never watched it either.
You've never seen a You? It's a sheep type creature.
Oh God, I knew. As soon as I said it, I'm like, who's going to do
it?
James,
James, do you have another one, or was you just going back and forth?
I mean, we can go back and forth. The one that I was going to bring up that also, because I like movies where where the protagonist is weird or an outsider. We mentioned 10 Things I Hate About You already. Julia Stiles was a little bit more believable as a high school character because she didn't. But the other one that has probably the character that fits in the least and is weird and everybody. Donnie Darko.
Yeah, Donnie Darko is on several lists, and I enjoy Donnie Darko. But once again, those high school teachers, one of them's played by, is it Noah Wiley, and the other one's played by Drew Barrymore. Those teachers did not exist in my school. And I forget the whole supernatural time travel thing.
Yeah.
The cool teachers who were pretty and said they did not exist. Did they exist in your school?
Donnie Darko. I had one. No, I had two. I had two. Yeah.
Like pretty young and cool.
Yep.
Are good for fucking you all. Every time.
No, I didn't. I never talked to them.
No, it's not even. I didn't even have. Every institution of higher learning I ever got to, everybody was ready and about damn ready to die. Chad, college, all of our professors are ready to damn die.
Oh yeah,
and retire.
But Joe, do you think part of that is, and I don't know how it worked out at Chad's high school, because no offense meant to Waddy, but it's somewhat remote. But like I was in Moorhead, so we had all the Moorhead recent grads. Yeah, so they were, some of them were 2 to 3, but Hazard's a little bit more of a commute.
Well, and I didn't go to fucking Hazard, so fuck you.
I knew it would get the response.
It's usually Craig Dennis in fucking Knox County.
I also want to point out that Waddy didn't have a high school.
Yeah, he went to Shepherdsville.
Yeah, that one.
I'm sorry. Whatever foreign country you had to go to.
Baghdad. The name's Baghdad.
But anyway, but Donnie Darko.
You went to Shelbyville, right? Shelbyville High.
Close. Yeah.
What? What's it called?
Take out the Ville out of county.
Shelby County?
Yeah.
Oh, they have 2 high schools?
They do now. They do now.
Look at Mr. Fancy Pants with his my county had more than one high school.
Anyway. We went to a big trip to London and they had North and South Laurel, and I was like, what the hey?
That's just some sort of war waiting.
You guys are just asking.
As he's sitting in the back of his truck eating a big bale of hay.
What the heck?
Donnie Darko, though, the one
Donnie, I thought you were just screaming for a guy in your basement.
Donnie Darko, the part that
Donnie.
Joe, I normally don't type guys in my basement.
I can't light this candle worth a fuck. Keep going, James.
Donnie Darko, though, the one part that always comes to mind is because I hated one of the things I hated about high school. I know there's another one, Joe. You didn't see it coming. Pep rallies.
And we called them prep. Yeah, we called them prep rallies because the preppy people. But yes, I do know what you're saying.
Yeah, and so
we had a lot of them.
So did we.
All the sparkle motion or whatever Donnie Darko has. Every time I watch that movie, I'm like, it's my feelings about pep rallies. I need to
go back. I don't even remember.
I got out of a pep rally once because I literally looked at a teacher who also didn't like pep rallies, and he didn't want to go, and I didn't want to go, and he said, "Well, we have to," and I made an argument. I said, "Listen, if you make me go, I'm going to have to file a complaint." And he said, "What would your complaint be based on?" I'm like, "Well, you're telling me I need to go support the school spirit. And in my religion, spirits are linked to religion. And this is forcing me to have a religious belief." And he goes, "Hold on." He called to the office and said, I've got a student I need to talk through because they're worried about the religious angle of this." And we both skipped that pep rally. It was one of the best days I ever had.
Can I tell you a quick story? So I was angry and was like to drink and do some few other things, and I got to drive to school a little bit when I was a senior, and we were walking across. It was, by the way, Leslie County is the only place that named an actual gymnasium center after Richard M. Nixon after he was kicked out of office.
We also have
from folks. That's a true story. So the Richard M. Nixon Center, it still stands. I was at a funeral last week, and I drove by my high school, and so I was like, "Son of a bitch, there it is." It's still there.
It's right next to the Ollie North track field.
Yes. Soon to be replaced by the Trump. Anyway, moving right along, we're walking, and a friend, I hung around all these long-haired people who thought they were bad, and they were like, "I can't go fucking prep rallies, yada yada yada." It's like, I'm not doing it. I got in my truck, and I really remember everybody going, "Nah, he's not," and I drove the fuck off, and no one stopped. No one even noticed.
No.
I couldn't believe it. Well, actually, I don't know what got into me to do it. I can't believe I didn't get caught. No one stopped me.
I mean, in all honesty,
I just left.
let's look at this retroactively.
And they're secretly all the teachers are going, "Oh, thank God he left. He's such a goddamn bum."
That could be, Chad, but I think no one even noticed.
I don't think that's the case, Chad, but I think it would be one of those things. Let's say hypothetically, you're a teacher. And again, we went to school in that weird time that no longer exists.
Well, the school wasn't locked down.
It wasn't locked down. And so
I want everybody to think about that. They did not lock it down. You could just walk in.
Joe, did how many trucks in your school's parking lot had gun racks in them? Because there were some in mine.
I was sure. Oh yeah, and I'm sure they had guns in them. I don't remember now, but yeah, absolutely.
I mean, because
nobody would have thought anything of it.
No, we didn't think anything of it. I mean, now I look at it like if I saw one at my kid's school, I'd be like, but it was a different time. And so what I was going to say is,
we're old.
If you were a teacher in 1982 when you saw a student leaving, that student's already in a vehicle, you're not going to catch that student. You're not going to bionic $6 million man that student. What's your best option to go? Well, one less student to worry about. Let's do this and go home. Right? I mean, it was a different time.
Or no one gave a fuck. I'm going to go with my answer.
A little bit of both, probably.
Probably no one cared.
I mean,
never was even brought up.
You weren't a politically connected student. They didn't have to worry about what. So
I was very much average. I was very average. It was rather in the middle of the road. So what's our next movie?
So, well, since we're talking about guns and stuff, why don't I venture away from
high school and guns? It's a great topic.
And that's what I'm venturing for, because one of the weird subgenres of high school films is the action genre. There are more than a few. So I want to talk about, to begin with, we got to talk about one of my favorite high school action films, Jim Belushi's The Principal.
I haven't seen it in a long time. Does that also have Louis Gossett Jr. in it?
It has Louis Gossett Jr. in it, yes. But yeah, no, it was a weird film about this man who for some reason he commits a crime and his punishment is he has to go be a principal at a high school.
Well, I can't think of a worse punishment.
I would say it's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad.
A teacher assigned to be the principal of a violent and crime-ridden high school. And it has a lot of them, Troy Winbush. If you looked him up, you'd go, oh God, it's that guy. He's in a lot of films lately. He was a child actor at the time. It also has Isaiah Morales and Michael Wright. Michael Wright, who is one of the more genuinely terrifying actors out there. Might give Tony Todd a run for his money in terms of of terrifying. And Ray Don Chong. But yeah, it's just simply all it is this high school guy goes in and the most horrible experience you can imagine. People are being hung upside down and beaten to a pulp.
So this is like it's the R version of Lean on Me.
Yeah, it's the Lean on Me, except for instead of a subdued approach to, he just beats the shit out of everybody with a baseball bat. And then at the end, there's a gunfight in the high school.
Okay, but that leads me to another subgenre. There's a ton of horror films that take place in high school.
Yeah. I actually looked at my
so
wife
not past
earlier.
Carrie, but I mean,
I know.
I looked at my wife earlier and I said, I know one I'm going to bring
I said, I hate you and I hope you damn die.
No, that's what she said back. She goes, why are you talking to me?
Honey, I need one compliment. I'm an old bag of a man.
No, but
your vision's damn near perfect.
Let me sorry. I know that joke. But anyway,
yes. Sorry.
But I looked at my wife and I said, I know one movie I got to bring up just so Joe will explode. I was like, one of the best high school horror films has to be The Faculty.
No, the problem is with The Faculty, I was so looking forward to that, is that, Kevin Williamson wrote that, as directed by Robert Rodriguez. They were huge at the time. They were trying to get this subgenre. Scream had been big, and I didn't want to mention Scream, and there's a new Scream out. I actually like Scream, but I don't remember any of the sequels. I know I've seen them all, but they're all forgettable. But I enjoy Scream, the movie. It was different, and it was at the time, there wasn't anything quite like it. But those kids did not in any way, shape, or form remotely look like they're in high school.
No, I was going to say there's an entire tradition of 30-year-olds playing.
I mean, but worse than there's just something, and maybe it's just because the three of us have met half the cast of Scream, but none of them look like they were in high school.
Yeah, well, even at the time when we didn't think we were going to meet these people ever,
they didn't look like they're in high school.
They did
That's
high
what I'm
school.
saying.
Jamie Kennedy looked like he was getting ready to get his Social Security card.
I mean, his hair was already thinning.
Yeah. So I mean,
come at me, Jamie. Come at me. Sorry.
Do you think though? I mean, and that's an entire thing we can talk about. It's been relatively recently, and even then, there's some question about. But like Superbad did a pretty good job of having age appropriate people.
I like Superbad. You know what's funny about that is that oh shit, who's the other actor? Not Michael Cera or the other
Jonah Hill.
Christopher Mintz.
Not Christopher. Christopher Mintz was 17 when he did the movie.
Yeah. Christopher Mintz.
And Jonah Hill is only a year younger, or a year or two younger than who wrote the damn thing?
Judd Apatow?
Not Judd Apatow.
Seth Rogen.
Seth Rogen. They're only a couple years apart, but Seth Rogen looks like he was 45 when he was 17.
Yeah, I saw a picture of Jeff Rogen taken recently, and it was a candid. It wasn't a studio.
Seth Rogen.
Yeah. And Seth Rogen. I was like, oh man, his age is catching up. And by the way, mine is too. So I'm not. Seth is.
But I like Superbad. Superbad's on my list actually of things I like. But it's semi kind. Okay. There was never a big party, and we never had that kind of conversations with one another, but the drinking and movies and trying.
I mean, there was parties at my high school. It just, like I said, I just never was invited. I'm not getting a pity party, but yeah, I know that there were the big parties, but it was again based on cliques.
I partied, but I never partied with a clique. So I don't.
Here's the opposite side of that story, Chad. What if I said there were no parties at my high school, and there were, and it just meant that not only was I not invited, they didn't even let me know they existed. I know they existed.
So Superbad is slightly closer to me, but not really.
So Superbad and the other one that comes to mind is it gets compared to Superbad a lot. Booksmart.
I liked Booksmart, and that's another one on my list.
And Juno.
I like Juno, but nobody.
But I was about to say, but they all did a better job of having people that you could at least fathom they might be a teenager.
Well, the problem is with Booksmart is that very enjoyable movies, very well done. It's funny, and it's modestly successful. And actually, I didn't even watch it till last year, and I was like, damn, I should have watched this before. It doesn't suck. The problem is those ladies are so smart. I didn't know anybody that was going to any of those institutions those ladies are getting into from Leslie.
Yeah.
So none of that actually, and they start talking about, I'm going X, I'm going Z. No, I mean, the fact that I got to go to college puts me in the top 10, 20%.
Well, I was about to say, and that was it. It was.
Well, they had the opportunity. They didn't take advantage of it. There's a lot of people there smarter than me.
Well, and that's it. I think that's the thing is that, again, I grew up in a college town. And so it was a big deal that I wasn't going to the college that was in the town. There were other people that had way better scores than I did, that had all that, but it was just like, well, I'm just going to stay here. And again, that's fine if that's what you want to do, but it blows my mind.
Okay. Chad?
So I want to go back to, because the horror genre of high school, because you all have missed the most important film of the horror genre that also mixed in science fiction.
You know, he does pause, so you know it's really going to suck.
Oh, it's going to suck.
Put on your suck waders, because we going in the deep end.
I know. If you're about to say what you're about to say, it had Roddy McDowell. It's not that bad.
You're wrong. Class of 1999.
Okay, yeah, that one's bad. Pam Grier.
Oh, no. Part two.
Part two. I knew it was going to be part two. How did I know?
Part two?
You didn't know there was a part two?
I didn't know.
And you,
part two. I used to watch Class of 1999 before I saw 1984.
Once again, I'm Joe. I can talk about Orson Welles, but you don't know Class of 1999 part two?
You forgot you forgot the subtitle, James.
The new.
No. The Substitute.
Actually see it, James. Have you ever seen this movie? You've never seen this movie, James.
Yeah, I've seen. Okay, once again, Joe, perhaps you forget that my father's way of picking films was Does this have an explosion in it?
That was the same way with me. That was my brother's who, does it have an explosion in it? I want to see it. Or does it have somebody do a high kick? I got to see it. So
I can remember, this is a true story. My dad at Movie Warehouse, and the guy at the counter, you get movies, and Dad always, it was action movies and stuff like that. And the guy at the counter goes, "Oh, this has a really good plot." And my dad goes, "Does it move?" And what he meant was, "Is it fast? I don't care about plot. I just want something to move." I can remember my dad said, "I'm not going to remember this tomorrow. I just want something that moves and explodes." And
class of 1999 Part 2, The Substitute, starred the person who lost to Dick Butkus as the best actor ever in the Oscar race, Sasha Mitchell.
Has there been a more bland person? I mean, he was on that one series, right? Step by Step. I mean,
and then he replaced Jean-Claude Van Damme
in the Kickboxer films. But has there been a more bland? I don't want to use the word star.
No.
Movie star. Is there more?
And this is why he was perfect for Class of 1999.
Steven Seagal probably, but Steven Seagal, it's not that he's necessarily bland. He's so bad that we remember Seagal. I don't know that nobody. Poor Sasha is not that bad.
No. Do you want to guess what role he played in Class of 99 Part 2, Joe?
The bland bastard.
He played a robot.
Well, you know what? Robert Forster and Pam Grier were better. I'm trying to think who was in the Class of 1999 Part 1.
So this is the description of Class of 99 Part 2. The substitute teacher of the future is a robot who answers spitwads with bullets. He'll clean up
That seems excessive.
He'll clean up the gang situation at the school too if a government agent doesn't catch him first for an experimental robot army. So there.
Let's rewrite this.
It also side note, second billing was Nick Cassavetes.
All right.
So
who would be a director of his own right.
Yeah, and a fairly decent one at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I had to mention Class of 99 Part 2.
What do you have on that list that doesn't suck?
Yeah, man, there's not a lot.
Come on, give me some more, because we've talked high school movies for an hour and a half.
We talked to Class of 99 Part 2, The Substitute. So I have to mention The Substitute with Tom Berenger.
I don't think I've ever seen it. I've never seen the sequels. All of the sequels star Treat Williams, right?
Yes, that is correct. One movie that I don't think gets a lot of credit for being as good as it is and dark as it is 187.
Okay. I could not remember the movie I wanted to open up with, Chad. Fuck you, because you just said it and it just clicked on me, because I actually had a whole joke that I was going to do as I was thinking about it today, and then I could not remember what the hell it was I was talking about. But you're absolutely right. It's directed by Kevin Reynolds, and if you don't know who that is, Kevin Reynolds directed Robin Hood and Waterworld, but he also directed 187, and nobody remembers it. And Sam Jackson's he's a substitute teacher, but he's got a lot of psychological pain.
Yeah, so he is a substitute teacher who, in a previous job, got hurt horribly, and as a result, he had PTSD from it. And he gets moved to this inner city school where there's a lot of violence.
Yeah. So it also has John Hurd, who's no longer with us, as one of the teachers.
Right. And he's trying to do his job, but this one gang member keeps giving him problems until he finally snaps.
Yeah.
And it is a it is forgotten. And I wanted to close. I'm not going to close on this one. I'm going to close on one more. But in terms of high school movies, it is a forgotten film that is actually really good.
It's really well made. I haven't seen it in a long time. The joke I was going to open up with is 187 is my favorite high school film, if that tells you how I feel about high school.
Yeah. And if you haven't seen 187, really check favorite. It. I'm not going to spoil the ending. The ending is,
it's a ballsy movie that no one saw.
Yeah, and
that should be one of our hidden gems. 187.
187, and the ending will hit you in the throat. That's all there is to it. You don't see it coming.
Before you all move on and we start talking about the last ones, can I name a couple that I don't get?
Yeah.
That people love? Mean Girls. And it may be because I'm just nowhere near the target audience. I've never been able to finish the movie. I've never finished it.
That and Clueless. Yeah, I just never been able to finish
it. I like Clueless. I liked Clueless when I saw it. I don't.
But you like Clueless though because of its tie to Shakespeare.
Probably, I like Clueless because I think it's just well made.
Is it
very well made, Amy Heckerling film?
Yeah.
I mean, for the time, I don't need to see a Clueless musical or anything else like that. But I at the time, I enjoyed Clueless. I could not get through Mean Girls. I've never finished the film.
Neither have I.
People love it. It is a staple.
No. I think
it's a modern classic.
I think some people do think it's a modern classic. It probably is a modern classic.
It is. I mean, it definitely is. Yeah, it's got a huge following. It has a sequel that is better. As a matter of fact, I like everybody that worked on that film. Tina Fey, all the
and I haven't seen another one that people love, and it's not that I don't like it, I just haven't seen it in a long time, and I didn't get it so much when I was a kid, is Heathers. And I'm curious to know if I'd like it now. I have never rewatched it, not since I was young. I watched it when I was young. What about you all?
James?
Yeah, a movie that pops into my head that involves high school people, and nobody talks about this movie anymore, and it may be a movie that, quite frankly, I don't know if it would get made today. It doesn't have much to do with high school. It just involves people that should be in high school. River's Edge.
Yeah, no, it's really that's Keanu
and Crispin Glover, Dennis Hopper.
What's the other guy's name? That really
River
great
Phoenix.
character actor. No,
Ion Sky. Leach.
Is he in that movie?
I don't know. But not the guy you're thinking. The actual person who does who does the murder. I can never think of his name. He's Grandpa Monster. We just talked about him the other day. Great character actor that nobody ever talks about. Right.
You said Grandpa. No, you said Grandpa Mustard's in my mind.
Daniel Roebuck.
Daniel Roebuck's in that movie.
And by the way, Keanu Reeves is not in. River Phoenix is not in. I'm thinking of something else. So I'm sorry.
Keanu. Yeah. Well, one of them kills one of their classmates.
Yeah.
It's a very dark film.
Here's a quick overview. A harrowing tale of aimless youth, River's Edge generates considerable tension and urgency thanks to strong performances from a stellar cast that includes Crispin Glover, Keanu Reeves, and Ion Sky.
Ione Sky, yeah.
But basically, the movie starts more or less with he kills his girlfriend on the side of the riverbank and strips her naked and leaves her, and then brings back people to show her to them.
Yep, Daniel Roebuck.
And that's so it is. It came to my mind because it's almost a cinematic. It's not the same, but it's in the same feeling, I guess, the same gut turning as it's a American high school Lord of the Flies. These are unwatched children.
Yes.
And they are going to turn feral.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring that up because it's not high school per se, but it's definitely.
Another one we didn't talk about, and I like it, but I don't have an attachment to it, is Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I like some scenes in it, so I'm just going to be terrible and say this, but I don't have an attachment to it. What about you guys?
Same way. I don't have. I could never. I enjoy it for what it is, but yeah, it's not one of those movies that I could actually dive into and get into at any point.
No, I don't have it. I have an attachment to The Breakfast Club. I don't have one to Fast Times.
I have an attached. The other one I could compare Fast Times to is Dazed and Confused. I have a tie-in, a connection to Dazed and Confused. Fast Times, not so much.
Yeah, right.
There's a movie I have an attachment to that involves a high school student, but it also involves college faculty, and nobody really talks about this movie, but I love it. But it's a weird movie. Like, I don't know anybody I can say you should totally watch this movie. But here's a quote that I think sums up the challenges of high school if you're a high achiever. And I never was this high of an achiever, but I just like this quote. Teresa Sternbridge practically runs a soup kitchen, and she's always seen posing in photos with crack babies and dying old crusty ladies. And do you know why? She scored in the 45th percentile of her SAT. People like you and me, we don't need to compensate.
Is that Wonder Boys?
No, it's Smart People.
Oh, I've never seen Smart People.
Oh, I love Smart, but I don't know if I can recommend Smart People to you because there's no character in that movie is likable per se. They're not unlikable. They're real. There's a scene in it where Dennis Quaid plays the professor father of Elliot Page, and Dennis Quaid. The opening of the film is he goes, he's a college professor, and he goes, I think we all should get to know each other since we're going to be in class together. So I want everyone to wear these. And he starts handing out name tags. And one of the students goes, I've had you for 2 other classes. Do you even know my name? And he goes, of course I do. And then he literally looks down at his roll and goes, Miss Chin? And she goes, I saw you look. Yeah, I know you did. I don't care. Put on the name tag. But I think about that because
Are you sure this wasn't about me? If it wasn't for Smart People, if you could just put asshole people.
Well, so if you don't know the plots of Smart People,
don't need to give it.
No. Dennis Quaid plays a college professor. His daughter is brilliant, going to go, get to any school she wants to go into. But he basically he's divorced. He's miserable, but he's smart. She's smart, but she ends up basically taking care of him. And he's in an accident. And blacks out, and he needs somebody to watch over him, and she's getting ready to go. And so his idiot brother, or what they want you to believe is his idiot brother, comes to help, and that's Thomas Hayden Church. And then the doctor that's taking care of him is played by Sarah Jessica Parker, and of course she's a doctor. So and it's basically about 3 hyper intelligent people who can't function, and this loser brother that makes them realize that they can't function. And there's parts of it that are hilarious, but there's also parts of it that are really sad.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy Smart People. And the only high school connection is Elliot Page playing somebody going to college. But it's really well done. I enjoy it.
All right, gentlemen, we probably need to wrap up. Chad, what do you got left?
Okay, so my last film is not about actually the high school experience. It's what comes after high school. And specifically, getting invited to a high school reunion. And I, of course, want to talking about Grosse Pointe.
Point Blank, yeah. I like Miami Blues better. Same director, sorry. I can always just remember that the same guy gave us Miami Blues.
I love this film. It's it's one of my favorite films. It is. It legitimately is. It's hit that right tone with me. It's not necessarily about high school, but it is about somebody who went to high school who was kind of a loner who comes back to his high school reunion, and granted, he's now a hitman.
And it also has Dan Aykroyd.
Dan Aykroyd in a very weird performance, but amazing. I just wanted to end talking about Grosse Pointe Blank. I don't know how you all feel about that. I know technically it doesn't fit into the high school, but it is. It's about, and he's going back and reliving his high school experience and going about how much he just was not a fan of it.
Yeah. So I think I watched it too young, and I've never rewatched it or revisited it. I've never revisited.
Oh, wow.
I think I watched it too young, and I got it, and it didn't connect to me. And I wonder if I'd enjoy it more now.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I saw it when it first came out, and I still
it didn't do it for me, but a lot of people love it, and I liked scenes in it, but overall I couldn't have cared less. So I wonder if I'd enjoy it now.
James, what's your thoughts on Grosse Pointe Blank?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I haven't seen it in a while. I probably do need to revisit it again, but I did enjoy it when I watched it. So yeah, no, I mean, I need to go back and revisit it because I do remember enjoying it. But it's like Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. Not saying they're the same movie, but I haven't seen it in so long that when I watched it the first time, I was like, this is fun. And I just haven't seen it lately.
No, I just love the aspect of it, of this man who was not looking forward to coming back at all because he did not care for high school at all. Decides he's coming back, and he has to deal with also the experience that he is a killer.
See, I remember it differently. I know that I'm sure you're absolutely correct. I haven't watched it in so long. I just remember the love story with him and Mimi Driver hooking up again, right?
Yeah. Because that's the only, him and Jeremy Pivens was his best friend who comes back, and he has a few chats with him. But it's just kind of like, I'm here. And it just wasn't necessarily like it's not like the overwhelming experience that you see in those typical films where, oh, high school was so great. Look at all these memories that I collected. And it's he goes, no, I'm here I still am miserable because this was high school, and then he just ends up getting into a fight with a bunch of other hitmen. I just
why does he go back?
I can't. It's something of man. I'm trying to remember. I am blanking, but it was something of. It was kind of his job forced him to go back. He had to lay low for a minute, so he went back there.
Okay, I guess what I couldn't remember. It's probably also in the back of my
mind.
And
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it in a few years, so now I got to go back and watch it again.
Yeah. So go ahead, Chad. James.
I was going to say one last film that I feel that if I don't mention, I'll get shivved, and I don't want to be shivved, so I'm going to mention it. There is a film that is better edited than it was shot. No offense meant to whoever shot it. That also is a ludicrous height of fantasy high school films. But I think it's the best collaboration we're ever going to get with Paul Bartel, Clint Howard, Vince Van Patten, and PJ Souls. Rock and Roll High School.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a long time.
It's, somebody pointed this out to me that film was probably as made as it was in editing, that it's better cut than it was shot.
Yeah, it's cut by Joe Dante.
And they give credit to that. But, it's a ludicrous film. It's word gags and sight gags and things like that, but it makes sense. There's Looney Tunes style sight gags. It's ludicrous. If you've never heard the film and you like the Ramones, or you like the Ramones end up performing at a high school, there you go. That's basically the plot. But PJ Souls. If I never had that high school experience. Joe, any rock bands stop by your high school?
Well, ESPN was there a lot.
Oh, I don't know why. Were they? Hold on. Were they there to see your student film?
No, not ESPN. I mean, I had an odd high school experience probably compared to some other folks.
Yeah, nobody came. ESPN never swung by our school.
Well, that being said, so if we missed something, there's a ton more. Let us know. Comment, yell at us. We didn't care for high school. High school films aren't one of our favorite genres, but there are some good ones out there, so enjoy.
Hence Crash Course YouTube. Check it out.
There you go.
Smart people, if you want a really complicated high school plus college movie.
Or Class of 1999 Part 2.
Actually, I'm going to say 187 or The Last Picture Show.
187, Gross Point Blank. There you go.
This has been Bonehead Weekly.
Skidoo.
Ah.